Imagine a world where machines can create art, write stories, and even design products. This isn't science fiction, it's the realm of generative AI. But hey, we know that. But were you talking about generative AI back in 2016? My next guest certainly was. Welcome to episode 85 of Great Things with Great Tech. I'm Anthony Spiteri, and today we're joined by Martin Musiol, founder of GenerativeAI.net. Martin has been at the forefront of AI innovation, helping companies navigate and harness the power of this technology. In this episode, we'll explore how generative AI is changing the landscape, the journey of GenerativeAI.net, and Martin's insights into the current and future states of AI. Hey, it's great to have you here, Martin. From your early passion for AI to becoming a leading figure in the generative AI space, you've had an inspiring journey. So maybe just give a bit of a background about yourself. I believe you've had a really interesting background in data science and machine learning and AI, but give a bit of background about yourself before, we talk about GenerativeAI.net and everything that you're doing there.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. Yeah, I'm Martin Musiol. I am in 2016. I was a data scientist at Frog Design, and there was basically sort of a design agency. And I started my career, and I stumbled upon a paper that said generative adversarial networks. That was actually from 2014 by Ian Goodfellow, and that inspired me to think a bit further, where is all of this tech potentially going? And so I decided to actually have a conference presentation, a conference speech about that. And so I presented about generative AI on a conference in Milan, Italy. And the title I still remember was Generative AI: How the New Milestones in AI Improve the Products and Services We Build. Yeah. So that was quite interesting for the audience that was there, but that sort of little buzz faded away quite quickly. Anyways, I then continued my journey as a data scientist. I was a senior data scientist at IBM Consulting. Then I became a team lead at IBM Consulting. Manager, data science manager, basically. On this side, I was continuing with generative AI, but there was no real business, so I was focused. I had to work as a data scientist, which was also great. I learned a lot, and we also implemented lots of AI solutions, but not generative AI solutions. In 2022, I then switched to Infosys Consulting. Or actually, to be more consistent with the timeline, 2018, I founded GenerativeAI.net. 4.5 years before ChatGPT came out. We can talk about that in a moment. 2022, I became the generative AI lead for Infosys Consulting for Europe. That was fantastic for me because there was that was right after ChatGPT and lots of projects. It was very busy times, and I was not only hands-on but also steering teams into delivering these projects. And I decided then October 2023 to quit my job and go full-time into my own projects, GenerativeAI.net.
All right, that's a really good roundup. Let's dive into it though, right? Because I think people want to kind of hear about where you came from first. Because what I'm hearing there is that you probably didn't coin the phrase, but you were certainly using the generative AI phrase back in 2016. Which, if most people are honest about themselves, no one was really talking about generative AI until maybe when ChatGPT did its thing and released. Towards the end of 2022. So, just talk about your early years in terms of you becoming a data scientist. How did that start? What triggered you to sort of get into that field initially? So go right back to the start there.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So your first point that you mentioned, coining generative AI, I didn't coin. I wish I would. Back at the time, I actually did at some point because I wasn't so sure anymore years later. So I did actually the in-depth research, And then, I found generative models, which is the technical term for this, or like generative adversarial networks by Ian Goodfellow is also a generative model. But generative AI, I actually found it then, someone mentioned it 2015 somewhere. So I thought, okay, but it's anyways not so important. And yeah, so when I saw what GANs, short, what they are capable of, it was not language, language models was not even in the picture yet, really. Language models came like 2017. There was with BERT by Google, that became a topic. But before that, it was image generation. So we saw first versions of images being generated, very low fidelity images. But looking at the progress of technology and the exponential developments that we have experienced with also the computing needs and all of the other things with Moore's law and so forth, I thought, okay, these images might get photorealistic at some point. I didn't know that they become so early photorealistic. But anyways, with that in mind, and also working, because at that time I was working at a design agency, I knew that this is very relevant for them. So it was a big topic that I talked about, and so that triggered everything. And language models 2017 that started, and at IBM Consulting we had a project where we implemented 2 years later the BERT model, but like in comparison to what large language models are capable now, or even small language models, BERT was not even closer. Okay, BERT is also much smaller than a currently considered small language model, but still, yeah.
So in terms of your own passion for data science and AI in general, how did that start? Like where did you get your start when you were a kid? Was it in high school? Like where did you start that passion? Because obviously you're very passionate about it, right?
Yeah, I am passionate about it, and I was always passionate about science fiction, Star Wars, R2D2, and robots, androids, all of these things. Very imaginative mind, and I also loved reading about it. But when I look at so I did my bachelor's in northern Germany, and I come in a university called Leuphana University, and there I studied industrial engineering, or no, electrical engineering, electrical engineering, but in German it has industrial in ahead. And there I took a course that was called self-learning systems. And there the professor was talking about perceptrons. And in this course, I actually understood, it was half a year, I understood that how programs can learn a long training data. And that there was like a light bulb went up immediately. And I knew immediately that I want to go into self-learning systems, AI. At that time, and I did, because I did quite well on my bachelor's, so I could choose where I wanted to go, and I chose, in my opinion, a good German technical university, the Technical University of Munich. I did the computational science and engineering course, which has lots of AI components, machine learning, reinforcement learning track, a couple of other things, and I focused our deep learning, and I focused on that. And from that on, I continued.
Yeah, because I think, obviously the generative AI today that we talk about from a consumer sense is a lot far removed from, data science, from, you talked about, machine learning, natural language, all that kind of stuff, right? So, what is the difference between, traditional AI, ML, and what you learned, reinforcement learning and all that kind of jazz, versus what we see today? I mean, there's a big difference, right? Because I mean, generative AI is new, but it's a subset of what's come before. So maybe just explain a little bit about that, because I think people are always interested to sort of say, okay, well, what is AI ML versus generative AI?
Yeah, good point. So in 2014, or I think even already earlier, the people found out that you can use GPUs not only for gaming but also for training models. And with these models, initially are part of the ones that first had an application in the industry that really brought value were traditional machine learning algorithms such as or in the technical term I would call it discriminative AI.
Okay.
Discriminative because that's the contrast to generative, because discriminative models, they what they do, they basically have to discriminate or select, choose from options. So it could be a classifier, yeah, choosing from different options. Can be a recommendation engines that basically clusters us. So it has to identify where are we clustered in which cluster. So decide, yeah, discriminate. So the technical term is the discriminate. Colloquially, discriminate might be understood a bit differently. Then also regression is some kind of like a decision in a continuous space. Traditional reinforcement learning, which is also part of discriminative AI, is deciding the warehouse robot, which is the shortest path to take to decide between these different options. And then we have also dimensionality reduction, but that becomes a bit more technical, deeper. But it's abstracted, I would say. It's deciding between options, but the options can also be continuous. Yeah. So computer vision models, where it comes detecting if a certain edge of an industrial process is the right edge, has the right angle or not. Yeah, this can be identified with these cases. Is it maybe our face unlocking the phone? Yeah.
Yes.
An
I was
email
gonna
that comes from
say,
spam.
I was gonna ask, where does, because the typical use case for AI and ML before, ChatGPT and OpenAI did what they did to bring it to the rest of the world and like they've done, was
Mhm.
really about, okay, can you have an image? And if with that image, can you determine whether that image is something that you're searching for versus not? Like
Yeah.
that to me was the crux of AI and ML.
Mhm.
And then that was applied to data, to big data. It was applied to science. It was applied to engineering, to
Well,
industry. I've got a friend who he works for a grain company, and he's trying to create a machine that basically checks and photographs all the grains of the wheat and works out
mhm.
which ones are good or viable versus not. So, and he's using machine learning for that. So, traditionally, if I'm not mistaken, that was really where that technology was being applied, right?
Yeah, correct. And there was the return of invest made sense also, that it really had an industry application there. Yeah, so it was not like a big research project. You could implement it sort of in a lean fashion and provide real value. I remember we had projects with an oil and gas company where we were with a knowledge graph, we were scanning documents first, and then in the documents there were like different images, and we were classifying the images with convolutional neural networks back then. The text, we actually went through the text also, and had traditional NLP. So classifying the text, is that a report, drilling report, or is it some other kind of survey? And classifying the texts like this. Yeah, nowadays, so a language model would easily do that,
Yes,
and
yes,
much
yes.
more in depth.
It's
Yeah,
happened very quickly, hasn't it? Because even if you think about it, a few years ago, we really didn't. A lot of people didn't have a notion of what was a natural language model or natural language interface. Really, what
yeah.
that was. But yeah, when did that sort of come into play with regards to AI, ML, natural language, LLM?
So the official paper is by Google, by head author is Vasvani, 2017. It was called "Attention is All You Need," was the
Okay,
paper's name, and that was the first architecture of a uh, okay, a transformer language model, because
transformer. Yeah.
transformer language model. That was the first transformer language. It was called BERT. And actually, fun fact, yeah, if Google would have doubled down on that paper at that time, 2017, they could have had a ChatGPT, 2 years later, maybe, or 3 years, like years before OpenAI would have done that. But yeah, that's just a side info. But there was, if we are technically, if If you want to call LSTMs, long short-term memory architectures, also language models, then that was the state of the art before transformers entered the stage. Yeah, we would do things with LSTMs.
So what's a transformer? So just explain that for people that might not know what a transformer is in this context.
A transformer is a language model. It's an architecture that has a context window. It takes a certain size of text into account, and it scans it. The original one was a BERT, bidirectional. It was like scanning it from both sides, and based on that, it could identify or let's put in simple terms what language models are able to do very well along billions, trillions of token that they have ingested in the training phase. They are able to train to predict the next word. And this simple one-word next prediction, we have seen that over a certain size of these transformer models and over a certain size of training data, capabilities are coming out, so-called emergent capabilities. And these just with predicting the next word, but if we prompt it right through the context window, if we prompt it right, then they are able to emulate personas. They are able to do some kind of forecasting, classification. They are super versatile in the terms of tasks that they can take, and on a level of a almost human intelligence level. Yeah, like there are
Which we'll get to a bit
different.
later on, right? We'll finish on the AGI conversation because that's quite
Yeah,
interesting, right? And I know you've got
right.
some thoughts on that. So, okay, so you've gone through your background and how you got into this world. So, your passion started around 2016 for generative AI, and you talked about that. What conference was it? I'm intrigued as to what type of conference it was.
It was called Data-Driven Innovation Summit. I'm not sure about
Okay.
the summit. Data-Driven Innovation. Maybe only Data-Driven Innovation. I can find the link.
Yeah.
Or the
Okay, that's
original.
interesting. So it was all about data and data, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Data-Driven Innovation. These three words for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure. You say that I say with my accent, I say data. So data. It's all the same. Okay,
Yeah.
so then then in 2018, you're still working. You decided to launch Generative AI.net. So tell us a little bit about the launch of that and what you were looking to achieve by launching Generative AI.net. And by the way, that's obviously a very, very highly sought after domain as well, I would have thought.
Right. So first to first point, I launched it because I had one goal in mind, because I realized many, like that was not the only conference I was talking about. Then there were many other conferences coming, and I realized that this is a topic where other like-minded people are super interested in. And so I thought I'll make an online course about this, which I did.
Mhm.
And that was 2018, together with Generative AI.net. And to my knowledge, it's the world's first online course on generative AI. Now there are many, yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
many very good ones also. Um, and so that was regarding to the domain, yeah, GenerativeAI.net was good. I actually had even the chance to get GenerativeAI.com, but at that time, like I was like, no, it's
Yeah, the
too
com's always
expensive.
worth more than the net, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I thought it's too expensive. I take the .net, and I actually also got already offers to sell the domain, but I was not satisfied with the offer, and I'm not seeking to sell anyways.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
but we're
I think
ranking.
it shows your intent there, and it's obviously going to rank very well. And that's part of where the positivity comes out like 4 years later when this thing really hits. So tell us a bit about the courses, and then you've also got a newsletter. So take us through a little overview of the courses, what they allow you to learn, and then
Mhm.
obviously after that talk about the newsletter. But start with the courses.
Yeah. So the courses, we have currently two courses. So not that much, yeah. One course is the general generative AI course, all things generative AI. Here, so I have iterated it multiple times, yeah, and I guess at some point yeah, it has to be maintained because things are just
Mhm.
changing so much. It's not only about language models, it's also about image generation, video generation, 3D object generation, basically the whole spectrum. And I'm also reasoning about but just very indicatively, what's the path to further higher intelligent in artificial intelligence. The other course is a marketing course because there is
Okay.
a roughly 9 months ago, there was a survey about from McKinsey where they were mapping business functions versus industry on where generative AI sees the low-hanging fruits and revenue increase can be achieved. And across all industries, marketing is very thick blue, so with the
Oh,
highest
yes.
potential of yeah of disruption, Gen AI disruption. And I also got invited to many marketing conferences.
It makes sense, yeah. When I mean,
Excellent.
I work with. I mean, I'm effectively a tech marketer,
Mhm.
in as part of my job as well, and I work with our marketing people, and I know that they're very worried about their jobs moving forward. So it's one of those areas which it's a natural sort of fit because it's all about creating content, right, and generating content from nothing or from prompting as well. So yeah, it's
Yes.
no surprise that's there.
Just today I lost roughly 4 hours with one tool, and that is Fleeky AI. I'm not advertising anything, but I got to know that tool. And you just paste in an Amazon URL, and it makes a review video from that. Like it's 3 clicks, and you can post it on YouTube and have a
Whoa.
review. That was
What's it called? Just out of interest.
Fleeky AI.
Flicky
Fleeky AI.
AI. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
great. Look, there's so much there's so much
4 hours.
innovate. There's so much innovation in that space, and there's so much potential for smart
Yeah.
people to create really tremendous accelerated technologies based on this. So Flicky.ai. So that's one that I'll look at for sure. That's very interesting afterwards.
Yeah.
And then when did you start the newsletter? Because starting newsletters obviously in tech is something that people do. But you were mentioning before it's got about 40,000 subscribers now.
43,000.
43,000. Yeah. So what was the idea to start that?
Yeah. So I had I started actually with a waiting list for my online course. I posted that on Hacker News that went like mediocre viral there. Then on Reddit, that was for on number one for a long time, so it got really lots of subscribers. And then I created the online course, and then I had already a sort of like a base of emails. And I used that to start with. I told them, hey, I write now about tech because I'm anyways daily I'm thinking about it, also because of my job and so forth,
Mm,
and I'm interested. So I'm writing weekly about it, or I started actually bi-weekly, so every second week. And I asked them, hey, if you want to know about this, stay. Otherwise, feel free to unsubscribe. And I did it through Generative.AI.net, so this Squarespace hosted. Um, yeah, then I basically wrote about it. Then I had a little break, I must say, because it's not always so easy to follow up.
of
But
course.
now, since roughly a year, I'm doing it very consistently, and the subscriber base grew and grew. I didn't advertise it a single time. Yeah, it was all
Oh, that's
organic.
good. That's great.
Yeah, 43,000 again, not a single dollar spent on ads. And they appreciate it a lot. Yeah, I'm very each episode triggers lots of questions or conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. And so much so that I mean, you mentioned that you've worked for IBM and then your other consultancy roles. So have you stepped away from that now and you're doing this full time? Is this your gig now?
No, actually, this is still a side work that I'm doing. So it amounts to 10 hours in if there are many updates, then maybe 12 hours, 14
That's
hours a
still a
week.
lot. Yeah. Okay.
Still a lot, yeah. But I also have like lean weeks where it's maybe 5 hours for 2 episodes, two and a
Hmm.
half and two and a half, roughly. Um, I actually like the Tuesday episode is more like a deep dive into a topic that I think is relevant at that time. And then the Friday episode is a review of my top findings, what I think is worth to look at. Yeah, if there's like a new tool or a video that's or a new model. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I get you. And then you also you've co-authored a book as well. So what's the book about? And what's it called?
Yeah. The book is it's called Generative AI: Navigating to the Artificial General Intelligence Future, AGI Future. And it's sort of all things generative AI, a little history part to that, because for instance, 1965, there was already the first chatbot called Eliza by Dr. Joseph
Oh, okay.
Weizenbaum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could literally chat with it, and as soon as you said something like family, or you mentioned family, then it asks you a question about your family, and
Oh, okay.
engaged you in a conversation. Not really of course, not with a language model, but yeah, it was an interesting first take on this kind of applications. Then I talk about the current state, what exists. Yeah, I'm also discussing different topics, but what exists, like what I said, 3D object generation, text generation, code generation in science, data synthesis, video generation, and also the untapped market of that. I also discuss topics such as open source versus closed source, and
Mhm.
large language models and smaller ones. And then the last third is towards like, where is all of this headed? And I'm looking also at even at robotics, continuing the exponential movement, exponential behavior of computing power, data availability, talent in the space, investment in the space, and make an educated guess of where this could go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
really interesting. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, one more thing I didn't mention. So I'm having the newsletter. I wrote the book, but my main job is I have my own consultancy, and we implement generative AI solutions for companies. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, righto. So that's the main gig, which is important, and obviously practicing what you preach in terms of that. So, okay. So a question for you. So what are the current challenges and opportunities in this field of generative AI?
So opportunities, there are a plethora of opportunities. I think when it comes, if you have a large knowledge base, and you have frequently some various kinds of questions against this knowledge base, then you could use basically generative AI through a RAG system, retrieval augmented generation, to meaningfully answer questions, automate on that end. You can automate processes that you might have in an organization. You can accelerate innovation, because you use it maybe as a sparring partner, or just getting prototyping things very quickly off the ground with the various there are thousands of tools to choose from. I must say 90% of the cases are automatic answering
Mhm.
of questions that are coming in. I've done that for an international container shipping company, where literally millions of emails are coming in, and each time there was a human answering these emails, and they had to check on their documentation what answers their
Yes, yes,
respective.
yes.
They had to write it down and cross-check it and send it. And now we have lowered that work by 80% of
Wow.
manual. Yeah.
Yeah. So that leads itself to a good question around, and I heard Sam Altman talk about this with Lex Freeman actually on that podcast, where they were talking about, in that case, the shipping container example, that was someone's job. It was a monotonous job. It wasn't the greatest job, but that was someone's job that people got paid for. But now, the company hires you to come in, consult, and try and work out how they can automate that and make it more efficient, right? And that's all about efficiency. But in that efficiency, someone is not working as much as they used to. So where do you stand on that in terms of where this, is it augmenting and making us more efficient, or is it replacing jobs?
Mm-hmm. I believe in evolution instead of revolution. So how we have built now with this specific case, how we have done is that the client representative, is still working in between and working with a chatbot in the initial phase, and basically copy and paste the answer in, gets an answer from the chatbot, cross-checks this, maybe has to interact again with the chatbot, and then sends it out. And first we do that. So that's like a heavy augmentation, I would say. But we do that also because of liability issues. Yeah, we want a human in the middle, as the liability is quite easy to answer. That's then the
Yes,
human
yes.
that's responsible for it. Yeah. Then after this augmentation part comes automation, and then at some point, like where the human is in supervision only, doesn't have to maybe interact so much, and then at some point it has to be deprecation also of the human, that it's fully automated and things are,
Yes.
because they just become so reliable, these systems.
Yeah.
in
So
the-
at the moment, they're not at a point just yet, do you think, where they are completely reliable? And we will, and it's an element of trust, right? In these models, it's a question that I think I got asked yesterday. I was asked a question around how much do you trust the answer and the response based on the inputs and the prompting. So from your point of view, it's still not quite there where it's fully trustworthy. So there's still an element that needs to be a humanized element.
Right. Yes. I think it depends a little bit on the use case. Probably there are use cases where we can fully even automate it already, but these are like simple things, and also where one error is maybe not such big of a deal. But if you work with clients directly, or you write some sensitive information to a database, you want to have this check in between. As of yet, because there's also this. I'm not. I just recently stumbled upon that there is a hallucination leaderboard. So it shows
Oh,
which
okay.
language, yeah, has is how likely to hallucinate,
Oh,
and
who's leading?
who's
Who's
leading
leading?
it? GPT-4o is leading with
Oh,
2.5% of
that's
hallucination.
interesting.
2.5. Then there is 2.6, a smaller model. And I always thought the smaller the model, the less likely that they are to hallucinate, because there's just less learned and you can maybe
Hmm.
more focus on things. But that's not necessarily true. There's
From a
not.
hallucination point of view, just so is hallucination where it basically creates a fictitious answer that's not even correct, or is it getting the answer wrong? Because what I've noticed with small models, when I download Olama as an example and use their smaller parameter model, it's got less context or less parameters to answer the question in. So if I ask it about myself, it might say that I'm born in New Zealand versus Australia or something like that. Is that a hallucination or is that just an error? What's the differentiation there?
Um, that is a good question. I think we talked about it. I was last week on a conference. We talked about that. Um, so I think if it gets something wrong, if it has the context information or not, I would just actually no, on the leaderboard they differentiate between incorrect answer and hallucination, like really making something up. Like incorrect is basically having a factual knowledge just wrong, and hallucination is crafting it into like its context, crafting some
Yeah,
story into a context.
because
But at the end,
hallucination sounds more dangerous.
yeah,
Yes.
it's confident about something that is just not true.
Yeah, exactly. Like interesting. That's really interesting. So we haven't got a lot of time left. The time has flown by. I want to
Ooh.
kind of lead into that, and I think it does lead into it very nicely around general artificial intelligence and where we're heading there. You know, so you mentioned that we don't trust these things just yet fully. You
Mhm.
also mentioned your interest in cyborgs and robotics and that sort of thing. So this is all kind of coming together, right? So the first step is to get a large language model that is sentient and that is, you know, generally intelligent. Where do you see
Mhm.
this going? What's your take on it?
Yeah. So first of all, I think when we talk about an AGI, it's about an understanding of the world, and just going on language level can, in my opinion, and also in the opinion of Jan LeCun, not a language cannot be right, because it's just an approximation of the world. For instance, if if someone tells you how it was to live in the rainforest for like 3 months, it sounds interesting. You have understood maybe what the person said, and you can like sympathize with that. But is it the same as really living for 3 months in the rainforest? It's not. So there is an approximation sort of language. And how do we like get closer to the truth, to the reality of the world? And we get this first with multimodal. Yeah, we have to have visual, then also
Yeah, I guess I
audio
understand.
and multimodal aspect. Then multimodal, in my opinion, is also the ability to interact with the physical world,
Interesting.
which can happen with robots. Yeah, and we see already OpenAI collaborating together with Figure, for instance, where I'm not sure if you have seen that video, but where the robot is like really cleaning the kitchen and then talking and
Oh,
answering a
yes, I've
question.
seen that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There we in this video we actually also observe the another piece, which is multitasking. Our brains are always multitasking at any point in time, if we do it consciously or subconsciously. This is another important piece. Um, yeah, and many more. Meta has also a good approach. Yeah, they have this JPA architecture where they draw conclusions between different modes of topics and basically abstract concepts. So basically, they try to predict concepts instead of words. That's super powerful stuff, but not right now in the top models present. Um, yeah, there are many things. So multimodal, tasking, and multi-sensory is also important. There's in Munich actually a company that does artificial skin. So each square centimeter of that artificial silicone skin has hundreds of sensors, and
Yeah, right.
yeah, that's and of course bigger models. Perhaps a change in the architecture that we beyond transformers we see also the Mamba architecture coming up. Um, so there are a couple of things, and even if we do all of this right and more data, larger models, all of the mentioned before, even then we might still miss something that will bring us to this. Yeah,
So, yeah, so if I was to ask you what is general artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence, how would you describe it? Once we get there, what would be the base explanation if you were telling someone about it?
yeah. So looking at language models right now, they are not they are lacking some problem solving skills or some human creativity element, rather than just they are better in creativity in the sense of like generating images,
Mm.
but they are not as creative as humans in another dimension. So having these capabilities, and to a degree, they're also right now much more intelligent than humans because they have just so much more. You can ask them,
Knowledge. Mm.
yeah, so much more knowledge. So having this knowledge on steroids, including the skills of the lacking skills that humans have right now, this is for me an AGI system. Yeah.
Interesting. And in a minute or less than 30 seconds, does the future excite you or worry you or scare you where we're going with this technology?
It highly excites me, but I'm also a techno optimist.
Yeah. So am
I
I. So am I.
understand. Yeah, and I 100% understand if someone is also afraid of the future or has like highly respect of where it might go because it's just uncertain. I understand that. Yeah.
Awesome. Good answer. Hey, Martin, this has been a really good conversation. I thank you for your
Thank
insights,
you,
your
Paul.
time. Please check out the newsletter. We'll link it in the show notes. It's been a great episode. I really appreciate you being on the show. So thanks a lot for that, for being on Great Things with Great Tech. Hey, just as a reminder, thanks for listening to this episode 85 of Great Things with Great Tech. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to highlight companies and technologies shaping our world. Don't forget to follow us on social media at GTwGT Podcast and visit GTwGT.com for more great content and all past episodes. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Please spread the word, and if you feel like it, drop a review. Thanks for joining us. and we'll see you next time on Great Things with Great Tech.